So, so there's something I want to share with you today that when I look back in my life was really a game changer, and especially in the current climate we're in right now. Not the weather, but in the sense of the collective consciousness, all the things that are happening on the planet right now. This is probably even more important and will be even more beneficial at a time when it is most needed, but also can be considered a little bit harder than normal. And it was an idea. This idea came up for me because I heard it from a speaker, a mentor of mine, who said it, and it just reminded me of just how much this has helped me. And essentially, what he said, and it just resonated with me so much in the moment because I'm like, that's exactly right. That's exactly my experience and what I've experienced with other people who are doing really well in life, who are enjoying their lives, who are enjoying their lives regardless of what's happening in the outer world, right? Because there's so many people there. Most people I've experienced don't really enjoy their lives. A lot of people go on social media and pretend they do. A lot of people, put on a front or a mask, because it's kind of not socially correct to talk about if you're not doing well. Although I think we should be a little more open to that too. That's one of the problems. We're not open and vulnerable about certain things with the right people. But what he said was the key, really, the key to being able to live in a way that's fulfilling, that brings you the things that you want, is simply to follow your heart, to follow your purpose fearlessly and authentically. And that's it. That's the whole thing. And it just kind of hit me when I heard that because I think I needed to hear it. It's always funny how we end up listening to things that we recognize looking back or in that moment when we're hearing it. That wow, I really needed to hear that right now because for me, although in these last many years that's how I've been living for the most part, I've been going back and forth a little bit. It might be because of the energy, the collective fear that's happening now, but there's also a collective energy of courage. If you know where to look, that energy is also there and stronger than ever. And again, you can only really hook into one and focus on one at a time. And so, really, the key here is, especially in times like this, when you could easily argue that the outside world is going so crazy, and you could be a victim of it if you wanted, and you could easily just give in to the popular narrative of either believing everything that you're told through the media or just complying and doing what they say, or you can do what you would do if you would live fearlessly. If you followed what your heart is telling you to do fearlessly and authentically. Because I guarantee if people were doing that, they would be moving in much different ways. And I look back in my life in the last few years because for most of my life, I did not live fearlessly at all. In fact, I lived very much from fear. A lot of us have that experience. Most of my childhood, teenage years, and young adult years, so early 20s to mid 20s, was fear based. I was living in fear. I grew up in fear. I was taught to be in fear. Um, and although I rebelled to an extent, there was still a lot of fear that came with it, right? And so in my, I'd say mid 20s, early 20s, I got like a taste of it, but mid 20s when I really started finding people and kind of setting out a different frequency and doing more things fearlessly, not completely, not living that way fearlessly at all. But I started, dipping my toe in the water of it, then my whole foot, and then half my body. And I started experiencing what it was like to live fearlessly. And just a little bit of living in that way allowed me to radically shift my life in very, very, very quickly. Because when you move into your heart and you root yourself there. You don't just visit and say hello to the heart and listen to it occasionally, but when you root yourself there for just like a little bit of time, things can move very, very quickly. You're accessing a different level of frequency, different level of thought, different level of energy, a different version of yourself, if you will. um, and things start to move quickly. When I started living more from a place of I don't care if this is the norm or what we're conditioned to believe. I don't care what other people think. If they think I'm crazy, if they think like, oh, why would you do that? But whatever, etc., etc. When I stopped doing that and started making bigger decisions, especially like, decisions I knew my heart wanted, and just started doing that and stopped questioning all the time what it would look like to someone else or what someone else would think of it, my life started shifting radically. For me, it's almost unbelievable to think that it was only about 3 years ago that I made the leap to move to a different country and live my life in a different country and do all of these different things. It wasn't that long ago. It was in my 20s. I decided to start a business for myself that now supports me full time. It was not that long ago that I started this HeartSpace, which is leading to incredible things too. But all of these things come um, all of these things are essentially against the norm. Going to live in another country, away from where you've grown up and where everything is, right? Leaving your comfort zone in that way, especially a country I've never been to, right? I went to Asia. I'd never been to Asia before. I didn't really know anything about it. I just knew my heart was pulled towards it and went. At the time, bringing someone who I was just forming a relationship with, but in our hearts, we knew it was right for us to be together. So we just did it. We didn't think about what other people would say about it. We didn't think about all that. We just followed our hearts and did it. And it led to one of the most fulfilling relationships. Actually, it led to the most fulfilling relationship I've ever had with someone and to so many lessons and so many great memories. Um, every single time I look back and I connect the dots to how I got to where I am now, how I got to the point where I've set myself up for success later, um, with the awarenesses and belief systems and everything else that are helping me now to see things clearly, to continually grow and evolve and discover more often what I am, and to help others do the same. I look back at decisions I've made, and they've all been decisions from my heart, coming from a fearless um, energy where there were certainly things I could have feared. There was certainly fear that came up when making the decisions, and these were usually pretty big life decisions, things that a lot of people will sit on forever or just never do. Right? They've wanted to do that. I've wanted to change jobs for 20 years, but never did it. I wanted to go to that country. I wanted to be with that person. I wanted to start that business. Whatever it is, it could even be something much more simple than that. It doesn't matter. But making those decisions and deciding to actually, instead of succumbing to the fear, having the courage to allow my heart to lead the way, has led to me now being smack down center in a life that I absolutely adore. I fucking love my life. I really do. Um, there's ups and downs like anything. There's contrast, but I sometimes get tears in my eyes. I get moments of just incredible gratitude, just randomly. And it happened to me this morning, which is another reason, I want to bring this up, is I'll just like have a moment of pause and be like, I fucking love my life. Oh my God, I love it. And that's not an accident. That's by design. And when I attribute to how did I get to the point where I can look at my life and do something that unfortunately most people if they're being honest with themselves, aren't able to do at this moment. A lot of people are. And I know some people who also absolutely love their life, but again, it's by design. It didn't just wake up one day having hated their life every single day and then woke up loving it, right? They did things fearlessly. They did things against the grain of what we've been conditioned to think we're supposed to do. They started looking at what was more natural opposed to what's more normal. And they started moving from there. They ultimately listened to their heart, their intuition, whatever you want to call it, God speaking through them, and decided to move in that way. And it takes courage to do it. But what if, you started to live fearlessly, authentically? You started to be you, the true you, not the whole like, oh, just be yourself, that kind of thing. The true you, the divine you, the God within you, the peace of God within you. If you started to be that fearlessly, do you have any idea how radically different your life would become in a relatively short amount of time? I look back at 3 years and I feel like I've lived a lifetime in these last 3 years. I feel like it's been, well, now to completely contradict myself, I feel like it's been a decade or two in these last 3 years that I've lived, because so much has happened, but I've made so many decisions from my heart. So much has moved around and shifted in my external world. So many insane lessons have come in that have been so impactful on me and have helped me in so many different ways have come in just these last 3 years. And it actually blows my mind sometimes when I think it really has only been 3 years. And there are times when I've been up and down. I haven't been living fearlessly in those 3 years. And so I can only imagine if I was sustained more in that, holy crap, what could even be from that, right? So as I continue to live more like that and move more into my heart more often and live from that place, things can move even faster. This magic that it is life, every moment will reveal more and more of itself um, to those who understand that it is magic, to those who live fearlessly from what they are, not the label someone else gave them, not the identity you've been told or the limitation. You know, an identity is, it could be synonymous usually with limitation, right? You can choose strategically an identity that you want, but understand it's not what you are. It does not, when that identity goes away, you know, you're still here. The what you actually are still exists. And so living fearlessly, living your purpose, living your heart path, living your from your soul fearlessly and authentically, is the advice, is the idea I want to give you today, and invite you to just allow yourself to absorb if that resonates with you. What would happen? What could happen? And by the way, there are things that can happen that you can't even fathom when you do this. Again, I couldn't have predicted the last 3 years. It's been an amazing whirlwind in a good way. It has been unbelievable. You know, if I told a previous version of myself, a version of myself from, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago, that from 2018 to now 2021, you're gonna, and I just went over all the things that are gonna happen in my life and the adventures and everything. My jaw would be on the table. It would be on the ground. This older version of myself, because it would be like, wait, really? And that was in 3 years. That all happened, and then by the end of at this point currently, you're like have this foundation that's only allowing things to happen faster and faster and faster and more magical and just amazingly, right? Like I would have, my 4 or 5 year ago self would have just been like, wow, holy crap. You know, probably open enough at the time to be like, that's believable, but still kind of like, that's awesome. And again, almost every good thing that unfolded was when I made a decision, whether big or small, whether making the little decisions daily to do the things that are aligned, not what someone thinks is right, not, oh, that's embarrassing, don't do that. I don't care. It's aligned. I don't care what it appears like to anyone else, right? Like I could be walking in a park and like I was meditating on a bench, like laying on a bench the other day in a park, and that might seem weird to some people, but it's like, it doesn't matter, right? Because I know the benefits of this, right? This is the way I choose to live. So what would, and that's again, that's a small thing all the way to a life decision of like just randomly one day being like, hey guys, I'm leaving and going to another country. Bring, bringing someone who you haven't really told anyone about because it's been so soon, but you're so in love with, bringing them with you, going on crazy adventures in this country you've never been to, starting a business, you know, doing all these different things. Those decisions too have led to radical changes in a positive way and lessons and just so much. And I'm just like, one of my mentors also says this. He says, how good can life get? And that's where I'm thinking right now. I'm like, how good can life get? Because I wake up right now and just at random points in the day, pretty much every day, just go, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you, universe. I love life. I love my life. I love what I have co-created with you so far. And I know it's this or something better. And the key and the magic of this is I am no different to you. You are no different to anyone else who has done this. So whatever your current circumstances are, understand you can absolutely do that too. You are co-creating with the universe. You can create a life in which you wake up every single day, and you could start this right now. You know, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and assume it right now and start loving your life right now, finding what you're grateful for, and watch what starts coming in. Start living fearlessly from your heart and watch what starts coming in, because it truly is magical. Life is magical. And when you start flipping the switch, when you change to the lens of like, oh, life sucks, or you're apathetic towards it, to life is magical, you will start noticing the magic. And the magic will be much more open to revealing itself to you more and more and more, and in much more powerful ways. We live in just an amazing, incredibly friendly and magical universe. You, my friend, are also magic. You are a part of that. You are an incredibly powerful being, and you can tap into this, live your life from this. Um, and one of our lessons while here, I believe, is to transcend fear, or in the face of fear, still act in congruence, in alignment to our hearts, to what we actually are, instead of succumbing to the low consciousness, the low dense energy that is fear, that a lot of people right now are trying to put others in. But again, you are a sovereign being. It is your choice to succumb to it or not, and you do not need to. Anyway, I could go on forever, as you clearly can tell. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. Remember, we live in just such a magical universe. You are so magical. Um, and you can tap into that today and in every moment. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Remember, you are loved. You know what? I love you too. And I'll see you in the next video.